Hey, buenos dias, ¿qué pasó, amigos? Welcome back to channel John's Moto Garage. This is what happens when you go on vacation without your motorcycles. You resort to parkour wannabe stuff and handstand wannabe stuff. But here we are. As promised, I'm going to bring you the Q&A. Big shout out to all those who participated. If you like the content, be sure to like and subscribe and hit me up on Instagram at John's Moto Garage. Without further preamble, here you have it, the Q&A sesh. Enjoy. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. So first of all, seller 559, great advice. I should have put this much thought into picking my last girlfriend. I couldn't flip her and lost my investment. So not a question, but that's hilarious, man. And seller 559 has been around a long time. So big shout out. Thanks for your ongoing support. Rick Works 247, Q&A question. Looking for the Holy Grail. You're just the guy I wanted to ask this time, so timing is perfect. My background, 17 years riding experience, 10 years on sport bikes. I love speed and learning. Been on a Kawasaki mean streak for the last 7 years, which is fast and leans with the best of them. Looking to buy a used muscle cruiser that can still lean but is also comfortable now that I'm getting older, 36. First time I read that, I was like, dude, 36 isn't that old, bro. But I know what you mean, man. I don't want anything less than 1500cc. I'm vain, so it's got to look cool, but most of all, it's got to be able to rail some turns. Was looking at the Yamaha Raider or Roadliner from how much you liked it in your videos. I know comfortable, muscle cruiser, and leaning don't belong in the same sentence, but since you've been riding more bikes than anyone I know, I'd love to get your opinion. Thanks ahead of time, Rick. Big shout out. Thank you, Rick. So first of all, I don't really feel qualified to answer this because while I do ride a ton of bikes, I don't necessarily put a ton of seat time on those bikes. So I get like a quick taste of the bike, but I don't really get down and dirty with all the ins and outs of those motorcycles. However, the first bikes that come to mind, you're looking for muscle bike, cruiser, but also comfort. I hate to say it, but first thing that comes to mind is Honda Goldwing F6B and or the Honda Valkyrie. But looks, the cool factor for those bikes is very subjective. The Raider's an awesome bike, super powerful. The problem is, I think in the curves and like leaning, that you're not going to have a blast on that, just as far as that goes. The Yamaha Warrior comes to mind. That was a comfortable bike, but I don't know. I think you're going to feel like you're right back on the mean streak, just, nominal differences there. So that's a tough one, man. You may consider checking out the Yamaha VMAX, but again, comfort-wise, I don't know if that'll be a difference. Or you may consider looking into the sport touring bikes, believe it or not. Kawasaki Concourse, FJR 1300. Again, the cool factor is subjective there, but I think the fun factor may be able to kind of push that cool factor need to the side when it comes to those bikes. Personally, I think the F6B looks pretty rad and is a super fun bike too. Just it's like a sport bike with all the comforts of your touring bike. So that's a tough one, man. Try to get your hands on them. Sorry, I can't give you like a straight up answer, but those are my thoughts just from the bikes I've ridden and tried out. And then of course, the V-Rod comes to mind, even though I haven't really gotten to ride one of those. But yeah, lots of good options out there. Hopefully that gives you at least my perspective on it. Big thanks for checking it out and for leaving the question. All right, David and Elizabeth, we have so many questions, but if we had to pick one, do you ever get tired of being so awesome all the time? I'm flattered, you guys. Big shout out. Usually what I get, not so much awesome, but people usually say I'm like goofy, but I'll take awesome. And do I get tired of being awesome? Nah. So I get tired in general. We get tired, but I don't know. I'm flattered, you guys. I'll take it. And I don't think I'll ever get tired of being awesome, as long as I can maintain my awesome status. So big shout out. Thanks, you guys. The YouTube family. Super rad. Super rad. All right, Bikes, Boats, Bivouacs. Check him out if you haven't already. He's got a rad channel. What is the one bike you haven't got that you really want? Yamaha VMAX. I'd love to get my hands on a VMAX. I've heard awesome things about them. And so hopefully sooner than later I can get my hands on one and see what it's all about. Shout out Bikes, Boats, Bivouacs. Bearded Josh, what tips do you have for someone thinking about flipping bikes on the side? So if you're thinking about flipping bikes on the side, I'd say go for it, but definitely do some research ahead of time. Save up some money that you can afford to lose, even though, odds are you won't lose it, but, like any investment, don't invest money you can't afford to lose, basically. And try to start out with bikes that you're interested in personally, that you wouldn't mind riding, so that way if you're stuck with the bike for a little bit, at least you can get some fun use out of it. Do your homework, do your due diligence, but eventually it's going to get to a point where you just have to basically take that risk and make a purchase. And so um, when it gets to that point, just go for it, man. Do what you got to do, but do your research, do your due diligence ahead of time for sure. And just know you're gonna learn some lessons the hard way. It's just the name of the game. But great question. Kaishaku83, which bike, if any, did you flip at the biggest loss? Fortunately, I haven't had any huge losses on flips. In fact, I think the one that comes to mind was a VTX 1300C. I had the bike and I was just not getting a ton of action. People came and looked at it and didn't want it. And so finally I had a dude there and he offered me 50 or 100 bucks less than what I paid. And at that point I was just ready to have it gone. And so I said, sure, take it. So that's about the most I've ever lost, maybe up to 250 on a bike at one point. But overall net, it's been a gain, and you learn your lessons on those. So you get some value out of them, just not monetary, at least not up front. But great question, man. Celtic Guy 6405, he's been around for a long time. Nice pointers, man. Thanks for the input and congrats on 10K subs. Big shout out, bro. I appreciate it. Gary_Lav, John, thanks for the vid. Would you say it's safer to buy a used bike from a dealership than buying one off Craigslist? Why or why not? Great question, and I've actually thought about doing a video on this before because I think dealers get bad raps sometimes, but I think there definitely is a ton of value in being able to go to a dealership, buy a bike used, have it easy and convenient if you're going to finance it, and knowing that they've done some type of inspection, typically if it's a reputable dealership. So I think that comes down to the individual. I think it depends on where you are and what type of bike you're looking for. Because where I am in Arizona, there's so many used bikes that almost any bike you're looking for, if you're not too particular or specific, you can find one used in like new condition with super low miles. There's a ton of them in Arizona. And so I haven't found an instance for me where I would go to the dealer over buying used, but I definitely think depending on the situation, it can be beneficial to the buyer, because one thing you have to understand buying used, especially if you haven't done it a lot, is costs can add up quickly. So even though you're saving a little bit up front buying a used bike from private party, if you then have to turn around and put new tires on it and get it serviced and have an inspection and do all this other stuff, you could easily be dumping $1,000 to $2,000 into the bike right off the bat. Whereas if you go to a dealership, again, that's reputable and gets you a pre-owned bike and has actually done that ahead of time for you, then you could be saving a lot of headache and time and money up front doing it that way. So it just depends. Yeah, it's a hard one to say, but great question for sure. Great question. I may end up doing a video more in depth and kind of breaking down some of the big differences there. All right, thank you for that question. Will Schroffsfire, hey John, what's your favorite part about the Lowrider S? Two favorite things about the Lowrider S. First of all, I love how it looks. I love the look of the Dyna and the Lowrider S. Just overall, it's super cool looking rad bike to me. And then secondly, I love the ride. The first time I jumped on the Lowrider S, I couldn't believe just how responsive the bike was, the throttle, compared to even the Street Bob that I have. So it's a super powerful, rad looking motorcycle. That's the thing I love about it. Yeah, awesome bike. Edward Tillotson, ironic, around here in North Carolina people prefer carbureted bikes. Oh, that's in reference to my last video. Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know, at least the trend I've seen is that people really want to have fuel injection, at least on the bikes I've sold. Lindsay and Dick, as a motorcyclist, how do you like living where you do? First of all, big shout out to Lindsay and Dick. Go check out their YouTube channel. Interesting dude and has interesting moto content for sure. And that's a great question. I live in Arizona and I absolutely love living in Arizona. Tons of great places to ride. It's hot in the summertime, but if you wake up early or ride later in the evening, you can still get away with it, and or you just beat the heat by going out of town. So that's a great thing about Arizona. I think you're going to get crazy drivers anywhere you go, and in Arizona there are plenty of places that are relatively close where you can get some good twisty canyon roads. So Arizona's awesome. You can ride year round. You don't have to deal with the crazy weather, and there's tons of bikers. So I love it. Great question, man. Brian Frederick, also one of the OGs, and he flips some stuff himself as well. I think he's had some flips that put my stuff to shame. He told me about flipping a tractor or something. That's pretty crazy. Which one of your flips did you say you wish? Did you say wish I'd left that one alone? Again, a gain better than a loss. So That's a great question. You know, looking back now that I've gotten rid of all of them, nothing comes to mind really because I've learned from all those examples and I've never taken a big hit, luckily. But there was one bike where it was just one electrical thing after another, and I did finally end up selling the bike and it was all working great, but it was just such a headache that I definitely on that bike would rather have just left it, you know? But live and learn, I guess, as they say. Great question, man. And that bike happened to be a Yamaha FC8. The issues with it were not anything related to an FC8. It was just one of those flukes, you know. Moto, Moto Journal Chris, great rundown, some really interesting info there. Great to hear some of the pitfalls and what you learned from the process. Thanks, brother. Jiminy 232003, education has a cost. Yours was small but valuable. Hey, big shout out. He's been leaving a lot of comments as of late, so I appreciate the support and thank you for supporting the channel. 66 Hazard. Hey John, what's the one bike you flipped and wish you'd kept? Great question. Back in December, I had a Yamaha FC07 that I got for dirt cheap, 3,500 bucks. Had 2,500 miles, pretty tastefully modded, some cosmetic blemishes, but overall, excellent condition. I wish I would have kept that one because the FC07 is such a fun bike, and I now have one again. So that was the one I wish I would have kept because I could see myself still riding it today. And and yeah. KAUX, KAUX. I want to flip bikes too. Hope to learn from you. Thanks for sharing. Big shout out, man. Struce L195. Hey John, I'd love to hear your opinion about a VTX 1300C if possible. I'm about to buy one and there's not much on YouTube about that Honda. Keep that good work going. Cheers and thanks for your vids. All right, big shout out, dude. The VTX 1300C, I've had quite a few. The reason I don't buy a ton now is the same as this V-Star 1100 that I did the video on. It's just because they're carbureted, and I found that for selling them, people don't like them. However, the VTX 1300C didn't seem to be as cold-blooded as the V-Star 1100. I rarely, if ever, had to use the choke on that thing. Great bikes, good entry level. I did get kind of that plasticky cheap feel riding those bikes, but that's not really an issue. That keeps them lighter and probably keeps the cost down as well. And their shaft drive, quick bikes. Yeah, I think for being that entry level middleweight cruiser, I think it's an awesome bike. I dig the C. It's got the drag bars. It's got the chopped rear fender. That's kind of like that hot rod muscle style bike. So I don't have anything bad to say about them. I wish they would have made them fuel injected. I wish they would have done what they did with the Honda Fury, where it's fuel injected shaft drive. Um, yeah, I really wish they would bring back the 1300C. Honestly, I think it would be a good move on Yamaha on Honda's part. So good luck with the bike, man. Hopefully it works out. Nathaniel Rodriguez, although you're a motorcycle guy, do you have a dream car? Also love the channel. Keep it up. Thanks a bunch, dude. Growing up, I definitely had dream cars, and it always went from like Mustang, Camaro. I loved. Here's my dream car, man. 1979 Pontiac Firebird, Pontiac Trans Am Firebird. That's my dream car, dude. Now that you mention it, rad car. My problem is I'd be the total poser because I wouldn't know what I'm doing with that car. I'd probably wrap it around a pole and crash it. But dude, that's a dope car right there, man. Um, yeah, great question, dude. How do you find a Craigslist? I'm a pile driver. Great question. Online, Craigslist.org, and there you have it. You'll find it. MTMDM, go check him out up in Canada. Dude's hilarious. Question, if you had to get rid of all the bikes except one, which one would win top bike in the Moto Garage? Now, don't be disappointed, MTMDM, because for the longest time it probably would have been the Supermoto. And I know people are thinking, dude, what? You wouldn't keep the Lowrider S, but I'll explain. Right now, the Yamaha FC07 would be the bike for me. Why? Simply put, it's the funnest bike I have in the garage right now, and also happens to be the cheapest, or one of the least expensive bikes of all of them. So if I had to get rid of all the bikes and recoup the cash, I'd keep the FC07, have a blast on it, and it's a pretty versatile bike. Um, the only reason that edges over the Supermoto right now is because it's better at higher speeds, man. You should get yourself one MTMDM. I think you'd have a blast. But anyway, great question, and go check out his channel. All right, Mr. 3LRIC4774. Sorry, I butchered your name, bro. Not motorcycle related, but how often do you skate? Great question. It varies year by year, and it's super sporadic, or I should say month by month. When it's super hot out, I rarely get out. When the weather's great, I'll get into these. I'll basically get into these grooves where I'll go like 2-3 days a week, and I'll get super into it again. And then family, work, busyness, the basic stuff. life happens, you know. So I don't skate as often as I'd like to, but I still try to have fun on the board. So yeah, it just depends. Sometimes I'll go like 6 weeks riding, and then I'll go 6 months without riding. So it's crazy. But great question, man. Jim Petrick, hey John, out of all the bikes you've flipped, what's been your favorite? What's been the most profitable flip you've had? Great question, dude. Favorite? Oh, that's a tough one, man, because there have been so many, and every bike has that awesome thing about it. You know, I love the Raider for that muscle cruiser, fun bike. I love the Yamaha Warrior for the same reasons. I love the Honda Goldwing because it's just a fun, smooth, powerful bike. And so I can't pick a favorite, man. I apologize. It's just too tough. Too tough. All right, Yamaha FZ07, JK. Anyway, the biggest profit, I think the biggest profit I've had on a moto is maybe around 2,500 bucks. I haven't had those huge like $4,000 or $5,000 profits, and I couldn't even tell you which bike it was that I made that much money on. But when I first started flipping Harleys, I think I was consistently making like 1,000 to 1,500 bucks on each of them. So yeah, there you have it, man. Um, Great question, dude. And thanks for the comment, Jim Petrick. Big shout out. Broseph Stalin, what was the first bike you owned slash learned on, and what are the things you've learned to look for when scouting a potential buy? Great question. First bike I owned slash learned on was a Honda Shadow 600 2003 Deluxe, 4-speed chain drive. Yeah, great learner bike. I did drop it, but yeah, good bike. Things I've learned to look for scouting a potential buy, just overall condition, making sure it's in good condition. I don't like to buy projects, so I'm looking for rust, I'm looking for dry rot on the tires, I'm looking for year and condition of tires, looking for oil leaks, starting it up, listening for weird sounds, taking the bike for a spin, making sure it runs the way it should, making sure, you know, on acceleration that you're not having any surging or issues there, making sure everything looks good. And then also checking, does the seller's story match up with the bike? Does the condition of the bike match up with the mileage? All that kind of thing. You're kind of, it's a big story, and you're taking all the different pieces and putting it together to get a big picture of what you're looking at. So great question, man. Dabs 710. Work on buying a good camera instead of a bike, something you can take with you and not use this crap setup you have for the road, and upload in 1080 at least. I know, bro, in this day and age, the fact that this isn't 1080 blows my mind, man. I'm getting on it, dog. Paul Nigrian, also one of the OGs, shout out. Hey, John, so next year I'm changing my bike, the Virago 250. Not sure what to get between Shadow 600 or Yamaha Dragstar 650. What do you think? Keep in mind that I have the A2 license, and I need a bike to fit that category, and I think both of these do. I'm not real familiar with the A2 license. I'm assuming it's you're limited by displacement, and it's probably 700 or less, maybe 650 or less. Of those two bikes, to keep it simple, I've had the Shadow 600, I've had tons of V-Star 650s. My pick would be the V-Star 650 because you got the shaft drive as opposed to chain, so it's easier on maintenance and cleaner. And then you've got the 5-speed as opposed to the 4-speed. So overall, I think it edges out that 600 just slightly. I would go with V-Star 650, and then both of them are carbureted. So, but yeah, both great cruiser bikes. Personally, in that kind of size, you know, in that 600 range, I'd look at sport bikes, but that's just me personally. I have owned those cruisers, so it's a great way to start. And you got to go with what you dig and the style you're looking for. So great question, man. All right, and then to top it off, Neo Dupin inviting vids. Thanks, big shout out, man. And then Randy's Rides, darn good deal for $3,000. Wow, he was referring to the bike that I did in the last video. Hey, Randy's Rides, go check him out. That dude's hilarious. Has his channel up in Canada. So big shout out to you, man. And uh, and yeah, that's gonna top it off for the Q&A. As always, thanks for the support. This was a little long due to the fact that we had a lot of participation. So big shout out and thank you guys. If you dig the content, like and subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram at John's Moto Garage. Let me know if you enjoyed the Q&A. If you'd like me to do another one in the future, I can throw the questions out on Instagram as well, so it hits a broader audience. And yeah, ride safe out there. Enjoy. Once I'm back from vacay, I'll be getting back to the normal moto vlog type videos. But as long as the times are good, then we're having a good time. We'll hit you on the next one. Adios. Los vemos.